everyone. Thanks for joining today's Manager Self-Service training. We really appreciate your time and participation. My name is Tracy Kulik, and I'm the Director of Change Management and Communications for Enterprise Services, and I'm joined today by my colleagues, Kelly and Sammy, who are going to help make this a very smooth broadcast for you. Enterprise Services created a portal that serves as your one-stop shop to access information and make service requests. Our goal for today's session is to provide you with the information and resources that you need to complete manager-specific actions using the Enterprise Services portal and to submit personnel action requests in HRConnect. We'll walk you through multiple demos to ensure that you leave here prepared to perform your responsibilities. Today we'll begin by providing a brief overview of Enterprise Services and how we process PAR, payroll, and benefits transactions. Next, we'll go over how to access the Enterprise Services portal and HRConnect. Then, we'll dive deeper into your role in PAR submission as we walk you through live demonstrations of submitting PARs in HRConnect. From there, we'll discuss how to track the status of your HR service requests and help tickets in the portal, and then we'll end the course by reviewing the resources available to you after today's session. Enterprise Services provides a centralized way for you to initiate and track service requests or help tickets on demand. During today's training, we will focus on submitting personnel action requests or PARs in HRConnect and completing those manager-specific actions using the Enterprise Services portal. By the end of this course, you should be able to access the Enterprise Services portal and HRConnect, understand the roles and responsibilities of managers, local HR, and Enterprise Services in the PAR submission process, submit PAR actions with all required attachments and approvals, and we'll talk a lot more about that later, and initiate and track service requests and help tickets in the Enterprise Services portal. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into our first module, the Enterprise Services Overview. We're going to provide an overview of Enterprise Services and how we process PAR, payroll, and benefits, we call them PP&B, transactions. You'll see here our Enterprise Services vision and mission statements. We really aim to establish the Department of Commerce as the most effective and responsible organization in the federal government and to provide innovative, data-driven, and customer-centric services that enable Commerce colleagues to dedicate themselves wholly to creating the conditions for economic growth and opportunity in America. I can't believe I did that in one breath. I hope you're impressed. But keep this handy just in case you're interested in what it is we're doing and why we're doing it, or if you're sharing information about Enterprise Services. With Enterprise Services, managers can access helpful resources and links through the portal, request assistance from the Service Center. You can initiate, correct, and cancel PARs, and also submit and track payroll and benefits requests, as well as help tickets in the portal. We're going to talk more about that later. But now that you understand the overall purpose of ES, let's talk more about specific services and technology that you can use. All right. Enterprise Services partners with vendors to provide or manage all of the services listed here. All managers and HR staff across Department of Commerce bureaus use HRConnect as a unified HR platform. Managers work with Enterprise Services for all PARs. Enterprise Services, I'm going to call us ES from now on because I'm saying Enterprise Services a lot, just so you know, provides payroll and benefit services to all employees. ES also provides fully managed printers for employees to print, scan, copy, and fax, mostly here at the headquarters, Department of Commerce headquarters building, but that's going to be expanded in the future. Enterprise Services, or ES, manages strategic sourcing, acquisitions, and full life cycle acquisition services for the smaller bureaus who do not have acquisition authority. Employees use the Enterprise Services portal to initiate requests, track statuses, and access training and resources. And then finally, Enterprise Services Service Center is accessible to employees where someone will actually answer a phone if you need to call them to address questions or inquiries. Looking more specifically at HR services, this integrated human resources video provides additional background on the enterprise services HR model. You can click the link in this deck to watch this video on your own via our enterprise services YouTube channel. Please do follow us on YouTube because in addition to this video, we have many very helpful quick tutorials if you are trying to do something in the portal and you'd rather not have to read a quick reference guide or search for the information. We have lots of helpful stuff on here, so please check it out. All right, let's jump into our second module, Introduction to the Enterprise Services Portal and HRConnect. In this module, we're going to provide you an overview of the Enterprise Services Portal and how to access that portal. This is going to be quick. The ES portal is a one-stop shop for employees to access information and make HR, acquisition, and IT service requests. You can use the portal to access all of our services that we provide, and this visual shows you that depending on the type of request you want to make, you can either remain in the portal to ask a question or make a request, and you can see here on the left-hand side, or you click on a link to an external system to make an HR or acquisition request. And this will all become much more clear once we show the demonstration. All right, what does the portal provide? I'm going to go somewhat quickly through here because I feel like we've talked about some of this and it is going to be covered in the demo. So just real quick, single point of entry. We're providing one intuitive self-service in-scope way for customers to make their in-scope requests. You can initiate actions for HR, acquisition, and IT services. You can access knowledge materials and training resources on demand. You can contact ES for support, and you can also track the status of your request through real-time updates. For me, the biggest part of why the portal is valuable to our customers and what sets us apart is that status tracking ability and also the 24/7 access to information. And we're going to go through that in the demo, but I just want to put that out there as these are two very valuable components you'll get to see shortly. All right, so now let's walk through how to access the Enterprise Services Portal. You can use that portal link to navigate to the landing page. Highly recommend bookmarking that link for easy reference. Managers may use this more frequently than employees, but it's always good to have it handy on your favorites. Once you're on the landing page, you'll select your bureau from the drop-down menu in the top right corner. You can then enter the portal via single sign-on or put in your bureau credentials if prompted. Something to note here, the preferred browser for the portal is Google Chrome. Please make sure you're connected to a Department of Commerce or Bureau network on your government-furnished computer. You may also connect through your virtual private network or VPN. Okay. HRConnect is a web-based human resources system. You've heard us talk about it. It provides a variety of manager self-service features, including access to personnel data and position management, as well as the ability to submit PARs on behalf of your employees. Managers and HR professionals can access HRConnect from the portal to submit PARs for processing. I just want to stop here for a moment to say you can still access HRConnect via whatever shortcut method you do now. This is just an added support for you so you can get there right from the portal and you don't have to come out and do it separately. Let's go ahead and walk through a live demo of how to access HRConnect from the portal. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Kelly, who's going to do that demo for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. So here we are on the portal login page. My access will be a bit different as I am in our test environment, so as not to actually do any real action. But here you'll see the bureau login at the top right-hand corner, as Tracy referenced, and you'll select your bureau and sign on via single sign-on. Here, I'll sign in a different way. It'll take us to the portal landing page, which we'll go into a bit later, but just for your reference, up top is the different services that we provide: acquisition, financial management, human resources, and information technology. You also see my open service requests, my open help tickets that we'll go into a bit later as well. Here I'm going to walk you through how to access HRConnect from the portal. You'll click on Human Resources, and here you'll get access to all the different tiles as a manager. Every employee has access to my benefits, my pay, and my time, attendance, and leave, and then depending on your role, you'll have access to 4 managers, 4 HR professionals, or 4 timekeepers. We'll go ahead and select 4 managers. On this side, you'll see a variety of actions that a manager can complete, and we'll walk through some examples later. But if you scroll all the way down, it says Initiate a PAR in HRConnect. Here you'll see a list of all the different PARs that you can initiate in HRConnect as a manager. And so again, all personnel action requests are submitted and initiated in HRConnect. So you'll see here there's a link. You go ahead and click on it, and it'll get you into HRConnect, and you'll sign in with your user ID or email and your password. If this is your first time logging into HRConnect, you can click Don't Have an HRConnect account. And then you click Sign In, and you'll be there. With that, I'll hand it over to Tracy, who will continue describing the PAR process.
Great, thanks, Kelly. That was masterfully done. We don't have to do more than one take when Kelly is running the show here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into our third module, which is PAR submission process and your role. This is probably the most lengthy, it is the most lengthy module, so hang in with us. We'll try to make sure that we're thorough so you understand all of the points. Okay, here's an overview of simple steps called Know Your Part, right? We're going to jump right to that. To ensure enterprise services can process your action on time. We're going to review each of these steps in more detail over the next few slides. So first, we'll talk about the P in Know Your Part. It stands for Protected File Format. This step reminds you to always submit supporting documentation securely. First, attach the required documentation through the HRConnect attachment feature. If that's not possible, you can submit an incident to report the issue to the Enterprise Services HR Service Center on the portal. But just remember, and this is really important, PII cannot be submitted via the Need Help feature in the portal. We're going to talk more about PII and proper submission of documents throughout this presentation, but very important, if you have to submit that documentation outside of HRConnect, that you use a protected file format. All right, let's move on to the next component. We're going to talk about selecting your approvers, pardon me. All right, the A in Know Your Part stands for Approved by All Parties. As an initiator, you are responsible for confirming and changing your approvers. This step reminds you to choose the correct approvers based on your Bureau's business policy and approval chain. If you're unsure of who needs to approve the action, consult your immediate supervisor. HRConnect, and this is important to note, HRConnect defaults the authorizer field to your personal reports to hierarchy, which means that the authorizer boxes are going to auto-populate with that approval chain. If that's not correct for your action, then you can use the magnifying glass icon, which you see there highlighted, to search for another authorizer. All right, next, the R in Know Your Part stands for Required Documents Attached. This is just as important as the PII submission here, right? This step is reminding you to attach all your required documentation to your request in HRConnect to help ES process your PAR in a timely manner. Many actions require multiple attachments as supporting documentation. To determine which attachments are required for each type of PAR action, you can refer to the Required Attachments for PAR's Quick Reference Guide, or QRG, as we call them, available on the ES portal. HRConnect has a 5-attachment maximum, but some actions will require you to attach more than 5 documents. To resolve this, you can combine multiple documents into a single PDF. Missing attachments are a common cause for delays of actions, so please remember to attach all required documentation. If you do forget to attach a document, ES HR Service Center must obtain that missing documentation from you before processing, which may delay your action. And we'll talk a lot more about that as we go forward. You can use the portal to access all services. Shoot, made a mistake on my facilitator guide. Stand by. All right. The final piece of Know Your Part guidance is the critical step of submitting PARs on time. The T in Know Your Part stands for timely submission. We're going to talk about this a lot. You're going to get sick of hearing it. Enterprise Services established a standardized PAR submission deadline to ensure that ES can process your action by the effective date. PARs must be received by ES a full pay period in advance of that effective date. Full pay period in advance means 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, the first Monday before the beginning of the next pay period. On the portal, you can find helpful PAR submission calendars that identify the PAR submission deadline for each pay period. Late actions will become effective at the beginning of the following pay period. There are a few exceptions to this rule for actions. I'm sure you're thinking, but what about that require expedited processing within that current pay period? And those examples are listed on the slide. I'm not going to go ahead and read them all to you. If there's expedited action that is not included in this list, we're willing to take it under consideration, but it will have to come with an email from local HR to Enterprise Services providing approval for the action. So in other words, we would need to hear from your bureau's PHRM or head of HR if they were going to request that we make an expedited exception for an action that's not listed there. We will consider those on a case-by-case basis. All right, I think we can move to the next slide. So here's a visual representation of roles and the process for you to take a look at so you can kind of understand a little bit more clearly what it is that we're talking about. It clearly defines those roles and responsibilities from the time that PAR is initiated until it is processed. So we begin on the far left with the initiators. And when we say initiators, we mean managers, proxies, HR folks, whoever is initiating that, who is responsible for identifying the need for the PAR, gathering that required documentation, setting and confirming the approvers, as we've discussed, based on that business policy, NOAA, Census, HCCS, or departmental, small bureaus. Everybody's got a different way of doing things, and we need to make sure that you're aware of what your business policies are there. And then submitting the complete PAR in HRConnect. Approvers are then responsible for reviewing the actions in HRConnect and approving, canceling, or working with the initiator to update that action. The last approver must submit the PAR to Enterprise Services HR a full pay period in advance of the effective date with all required documentation. I mentioned I'm going to be repeating that several times, but what I want to make clear here is we don't consider a PAR fully submitted to Enterprise Services until it actually gets to us and has made it through all of your approvals. So it's a good idea to give yourself a few extra days, as many as possible, when it's done, when you've got the package together. Give yourself some extra days for it to get to us, just in case your approvers are not readily available to approve your PAR. So until it gets to HR or to Enterprise Services, that's when the clock is ticking when we talk about 2 full weeks in advance, and we'll demonstrate that a number of times as we go through this training. Now, in most instances, that last approver will send the action directly to Enterprise Services for coding and processing. HRConnect has a predefined workflow that's going to route actions to your local HR if they need to approve something. So you don't have to worry about that part. You just need to get your approvers correct, and then those predefined workflows will either send it to us or to your local HR if needed. If they need to, they'll review it and add any necessary information to those actions and make sure that they get it to us for processing. Once Enterprise Services receives the PAR through HRConnect. We then review it for completeness and timeliness. We confirm that the actions are compliant with processing requirements, we code the actions, and we perform a quality assurance review and then submit that PAR to NFC for payroll processing. I want to enforce this again or confirm it. Your action will only be processed if it is complete. If it's late, ES will notify you via email, and your action may be processed at the beginning of the next pay period. If your action is incomplete, we will notify you electronically, both via HRConnect and the portal. HR can either restart or push back the action, which we will discuss in more detail next. All right, that was a lot of information. Now we're going to give you even more. Enterprise Services cannot process incomplete submissions or submissions with errors, which we just talked about. To correct those errors, we have the option of either restarting or pushing back the action, depending on the situation. We're demonstrating that here on this slide. We'll show you what we'll do for different situations. Restart sends the PAR back to the original initiator, potentially you. If your PAR is restarted, you should correct any errors and resubmit it for approval. Pushback function sends the PAR back to the previous approver within your work list. PARs can be pushed back multiple times all the way back to the initiator if necessary. Use of the restart or pushback function for an action is determined based on the kind of error that needs to be addressed. So we will restart for errors requiring your corrections, right? An initiator's corrections such as missing documentation, incorrect billet numbers. Actions get pushed back for simple errors like an incorrect effective date or a missing required signature. Actions that are pushed back or restarted may impact the timeline for processing. You should resubmit your PAR for approval no later than the second Friday of the pay period. If a PAR action is not submitted in time, it will be pushed to the next pay period. So again, this drives home that point. The more complete and accurate it is when you initially submit it to us, the quicker we're going to be able to take care of it, and we can guarantee that it'll be the effective date will be honored. All right, PAR submission deadline. We're going to talk about this again, and here's a lovely graphic that we've worked very hard on that we hopefully will take any confusion out of PAR submission deadlines. All PARs, including those that require your local HR's approval, must be submitted to Enterprise Services with all your required approvals, one full pay period before the effective date. And as I mentioned earlier, 11:59 p.m. Eastern on the first Monday, 2 weeks prior to the start of a pay period. And this is the great thing. We have a 2020 PAR submission calendar on the Enterprise Services portal that makes it quick and easy for you to determine the PAR submission deadline for each pay period. An example of for pay period 23 PARs is outlined in this calendar. In this example, any PARs received after October 28th, which was the first Monday of pay period 22, will be pushed to pay period 24 for processing. PARs with incomplete or missing documentation are going to be restarted or pushed back, right, depending on what needs to be fixed. ES will follow up with the initiator, again, that would be you potentially, via email once we realize that PAR is incomplete. If the PAR is not resubmitted with corrected documentation by November 22nd in this example, which is the second Friday of pay period 23, which is your pay period that's been requested for when this action becomes effective, then we're going to have to push it to pay period 24. We make every effort to let you know as soon as possible if something is incorrect or missing, and we ask that you make every effort in return to get it back to us as quickly as possible so that we can honor that effective date. Now, here's the thing. Processing a PAR can take up to 10 days, the entire pay period for the effective date of that PAR. Please don't reach out to Enterprise Services with questions during the processing window. However, if you don't see that the PAR has moved past processing by the first week of the next pay period, or in this example, week 1 of pay period 24, please reach out to us. And Kelly's going to demonstrate it later, so you'll be able to see much more clearly what we're talking about. But okay, let's go ahead and jump into an example. A common instance when you will need to submit a PAR is an employee transfer. And that could be a conversion, a reassignment, or a promotion. Hopefully it's a promotion. A conversion changes that employee's current appointment to a different type of appointment without a break in service. Reassignment changes an employee from one position to another without promotion or change to lower grade, level, or band. And finally, a promotion action moves an employee to a higher grade level or makes a temporary promotion permanent. Non-competitive conversions, reassignments, and promotions do require the manager to initiate and submit a PAR in HRConnect, while competitive actions require coordination with local HR. All right. Another example of a common instance when you'll need to submit a PAR is an employee separation. Separation ends employment at an agency and can either be voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary separation refers to an employee-initiated resignation, potentially a transfer to another federal agency or retirement. Involuntary separation occurs when the agency decides to terminate an employee. Employee relations will notify you that one of your direct report employees is being terminated if that's the case. Both types of separation require the manager to submit a termination PAR in HRConnect. You should initiate the PAR in HRConnect upon notification of the employee separation, attach the supporting documentation in a protected file format, as we talked about before, and submit the PAR to the correct approval chain for review. Okay, employees separating from federal service or changing to a non-leave earning position may be eligible for a lump sum payment for unused annual leave or compensatory time and credit hours. We will discuss lump sum payments in more detail later, but for now, it's important to note lump sum payment documentation should not be submitted in HRConnect with the termination PAR. Not submitted in HRConnect with the termination PAR. It's a separate action. All right, don't forget that. It's important. All righty, now that we've provided you with an overview of PAR submission and processing guidelines, hopefully this demo is going to make it much more clear than me talking to you about it on how to go ahead and submit a PAR with a voluntary separation. Kelly, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. So here we are at the login page for HRConnect. Again, you can navigate here either via the portal or via a bookmark you've made of this page. Again, you'll log in with either your user ID, your email, and your password. So here I am in the test environment for HRConnect, so don't worry, I am not submitting any real PARs on these individuals. Here you'll see the welcome page for HRConnect. Your direct reports will be listed here. Your own information, you can click on this tab, as well as any reports you want to run. Here we're going to do an example action on this employee. You'll click on their name, it'll take you to their overview page with all of their information listed here. On the right-hand side, it'll list all of the personnel actions that you can submit on behalf of this employee, such as conversions or promotions, reassignments, as Tracy just went over. Today, we're going to walk through an example of the termination PAR. So you'll go ahead and click on termination. You'll then be navigated to the termination PAR page. Here, you'll fill out a few different fields based on this particular PAR. There are different codes that you'll select based on what kind of termination it is, and this will assign the appropriate nature of action code. Here, we're going to say that this employee is resigning. Proposed effective date, so we're going to say that they are resigning in May 1st. Here, you'll provide any more contact information, such as you want to contact me if you have any questions or any other particular information you want to share. You also want to attach any required attachments for this PAR. There is the QRG Quick Reference Guide on required attachments for all the actions you can submit in HRConnect. You can find that on our portal. So once you click your attachments, Below, you want to make sure that all approvers are here. This is auto-populated with the reports to structure that your bureau works with enterprise services to develop these routing rules. If you feel that these are incorrect and you want to adjust, you can click the magnifying glass and it'll search through HRConnect's database and you can select the appropriate approver. There's also human resources here, so depending on the particular PAR, some actions are directed directly to your local HR, but if you think this action is ready to go, you can select that as well. Then I would check everything to make sure it's correct on the correct employee, the correct action reason, effective date, any notes, attachments, approvers, and then click submit. And that will have submitted the request, and again, it'll pop up here for you. So again, as we reviewed, this then needs to be approved by all the approvers before it is sent to Enterprise Services. Once it is approved and processed in HRConnect, it'll be sent to Enterprise Services, where we'll open a service request on the Enterprise Services portal, and we will show you that in a little bit. With that, I'll kick it back over to Tracy.
All right, moving right along. Thank you, Kelly. All right, I think we're moving into our final module now, status tracking and escalation process. These are important things to know how to do here in the portal. We're going to cover how to submit HR service requests and help tickets in the portal, how to track their status, and how to escalate them if necessary. The nice thing is we're going to cover the next few slides as a demo in the portal, so I'm going to send you back over to Kelly. It's always nice to see something happening rather than just listening to me talk. Thank you, Kelly.
Awesome. And now we are out of HRConnect and we are back in the Enterprise Services portal. We're going to continue the example of that employee separation and termination as we walk through each of the different pieces on the portal here. So again, once your termination part is approved in HRConnect and is routed to Enterprise Services, a service request opens that you can track using the portal. So you'll see here my open service request as well as my open help ticket. My open service requests are where your PAR, payroll, and benefit requests will be listed. So anything that comes from HRConnect, as well as anything that you will initiate via the tiles on the portal. Then my open help tickets will be any tickets that you open via the need help or need HR help button. When you click on one of these, you'll be provided with a status update as well as a tracker of where your ticket is in the process. We're now going to walk through some of the other actions that you can complete as a manager. Just as a reminder, you'll click on the Human Resources tab, where we'll take you to that landing page where you can submit actions as an employee, but also as a manager in your role. Here, it might ask you to re-authenticate, just for security purposes. And then again, here, we've walked through this a little bit earlier. This is the landing page for all the different actions you can see. For my benefits, you can select any of these tiles regarding your benefits enrollment, my pay, maybe something about payroll deductions, my time attendance and leave, anything having to do with those specific processes. But then for managers is really where you'll spend most of your time as a manager. Again, it may ask you to re-authenticate for security purposes. Here are all the different actions that you can complete as a manager. You can submit a correction or cancellation of a PAR, EOPF access request, initiate employee incentives and payouts, submit WebTA access requests, submit employee pay advance requests, lots of different actions as a manager. With that, I'm going to jump back over to the home page to walk through a bit more on the difference between help tickets and service requests. That's often a question that we get here at Enterprise Services. As a reminder, you submit service requests through the tiles that I just showed on this page. Anything you submit via here will open up a service request here. An HR service request is a transaction submitted for processing that enrolls in or changes your payroll or benefit services or PARs. you can safely submit PII or attach documents containing PII when initiating any service request on the portal. So you'll see here is an example of a cancellation of a PAR service request. Here you also see the Need Help and Need HR Help buttons on the right side of the screen. A help ticket is any questions submitted to enterprise services. The Need Help button is for any general inquiries. For acquisition or IT-related questions, you can use this button. Please do not submit PII through the Need Help form on the portal. If you have an HR-related question, which is often where questions pop up, you can click the Need HR Help button, and you can submit PII if you use this button. So now we're going to go back to our example, continuing on the termination from HRConnect. We're going back to employee separation and the piece of that process, which is the lump sum payment. As I mentioned earlier, employees separating from a federal service or changing to a non-leave earning position may receive a lump sum payment for unused annual leave or compensatory time and credit hours. You should initiate these lump sum payment requests for eligible employees as help tickets on the Enterprise Services portal through the Need HR Help button. This is separate from the termination PAR request that we submitted in HRConnect. We'll walk through that now. When you click the button, you'll be directed to this Need Help form. The first you'll fill out on behalf of this user. For example, for me, it's me today. The category, you'll select My Payroll for this example. Subcategory, see there's many different options. You'll scroll down to Separation Clearance with Lump Sum Payout, CD-126, CD-529, and CD-527 if applicable. In the subject line, you want to provide some more information on what we are submitting. So we are submitting a lump sum payment request. Then in the more information, describe any other information you might want to include, such as I'm submitting a lump sum payment request. I'm also going to include the personal email of the person that I'm submitting this on behalf of, just so that can help with any additional communications in the future. You also want to make sure you add the attachments that are required for this action. Again, in this example, the CD-126 and CD-529, they'll click on this, it'll connect to your computer, and you'll attach it. And then you click Submit, and you'll see at the top that an HR incident was created for me, and you can track it on the front, and that you can go back to the home page, and it'll open up in My Open Help Ticket, because we just opened up the help ticket, and you see it's right there. We can go ahead and click into it, and you'll see I just created it. There's some more information. If I attach anything, it'd be listed here. You won't be able to reopen any attachments you submit. That's just, again, for your own security, but you will be able to see the name of the file in case you want to reference it later. If you have any interaction or there's any action on your ticket, that will be tracked via here. You can also communicate with our service center, typing in a message here. If you need to attach any files that we're missing. You also receive email updates, but it's also really convenient to have it all right here in the portal. And with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Tracy to round us out about the escalation process.
All righty. Thanks, Kelly. Great job. All right. So as we said, we have an escalation process. We aim to provide great service with timely and accurate responses, but there are going to be times where we're going to fall short. And if necessary, we want you to have an avenue to be able to escalate your service request or help ticket. A couple of clarifying rules here. You should not escalate your request if the status tracker shows that it is in the processing stage and it has been less than 2 weeks since your request entered this stage. We talked about that earlier, right? If, however, you have not received a response to your inquiry within 3 business days, you should escalate or reach out to the ES Service Center. You can go ahead and escalate that. And it's important to note that a response is not necessarily a resolution. What we mean by that is We might respond to an inquiry that you send in and say, we'll need to get more information. We need to pass this along to a SME or like a tier 2 person that can help answer your question. That should be considered a response. We may not have been able to resolve your issue yet, but we are tracking it and we are working it. So we just want to make sure that you're clear on, if we're unable to resolve your issue right away, we're still responding, and that doesn't necessarily need to be escalated at that time. All right. You should also escalate if you're dissatisfied with the resolution that you get or the time that it took to resolve your service request or help ticket. In the event that you need to escalate a service request or help ticket, please contact Enterprise Services Leadership at the escalation mailbox that is listed and include your name and service request number in the subject. If you are submitting an escalation on behalf of someone else, please put their name in there along with the incident. The number is listed under the service request or help ticket on the portal. That's the number that we'd like you to use. And in your email, you should add any additional information that's related to that concern. Okay, let's talk about training resources. We've covered a lot of material today. You may need some reminders as you go out to perform the responsibilities, so we'll discuss the training resources that are available to assist you. We've put this helpful table together for you to refer to as you're exploring those training resources related to enterprise services, PAR processing, and HRConnect. Two of your key resources as managers or proxies are the ES portal and the ES HR Service Center. We encourage you to familiarize yourself with the For Managers page on the portal. Also, access the ES portal reference library to find learning materials related to your role. The reference library contains quick reference guides or QRGs and standard operating procedures that will guide you through specific processes. Once again, we want to reinforce my words with visual learning, and I'm going to hand it over to Kelly for a quick demo.
Wonderful. So as Tracy said, we've gone through a lot in this training, and we're going to show you where to access all these additional materials that we just walked through. So again, this is the homepage for the Enterprise Services portal. There's a few different ways for you to access all the different resources. One will be on the homepage. You can go ahead and click Reference Library. This will take you to the home of all the different knowledge articles you have across acquisition, general enterprise services, financial management, human resources, information technology. Since most of our demo today focus on human resources questions, we're going to go ahead and go there to see what resources are available to us. Once that opens, you'll be directed to a large library of a different variety of resources listed on the right, but we're going to narrow down all the different resources via the categories on the left. You'll see there's categories on benefits questions or retirement questions or separations questions. Since we walked through a separation example, I'm going to go ahead and filter by that. You'll see this updated on the right-hand side. And if you scroll down, there's different topics. So if you're looking for a specific type of resource, such as a reference guide, you can go ahead and click that. Again, updated even more. Then on the bottom, you'll see the different employee roles: timekeeper, HR professional, manager, and employee. Since we're manager, we're going to go ahead and select that. And we'll see there are a few resources, such as the manager's role and lump sum payments, quick reference guide for us to access. In addition to the reference library, you can also find all resources very easily via the magnifying glass in the top right-hand corner. There, you just want to type in a few keywords, such as lump sum payment, and you'll see a variety of resources pop up, and you click on the one that is most applicable to your question. Also, we walked through PARS and HRConnect and referenced a required attachments QRG. You can go ahead and just type in a few keywords, and you'll see that it's right there for you to go ahead and click on. It'll take you to that resource where you can then download the PDF for your own use. And with that, there are lots of different resources. You have this recording. You can watch it as much as possible, and we'll kick it back over to Tracy to round us out.
All right, great. Thanks, Kelly. All right, so now that we've concluded the course content, we're going to wrap up our presentation by reviewing the learning objectives and next steps. Please take a moment to review all of the learning objectives that we discussed during today's session. Alrighty, let's go to next steps. Thanks again for joining us for today's Manager Self-Service or MSS training. Your role as managers and or proxies is key to that timely processing of PARs. I mean, we just can't say that enough. For next steps, we want you to complete ES Enterprise Services PP&B web-based trainings. Those can be found on the CLC site. Visit and bookmark the portal for announcements, resources, and support materials. That's really important too. You may not need it often, so be able to find it quickly on your favorites. We also submit and track your PARs in the portal. And then if you have any questions at all, please reach out to Enterprise Services Service Center, which is open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time from Monday through Friday. All right, and here's our contact card. You might have one of these on your desk. We try to give them out to our local HR folks so they can hand them out to their customers. But we really appreciate your participation in today's training and hope that you now have the information and resources you need to complete those responsibilities in HRConnect and in the portal. If you have any questions, we are definitely here to help. Thank you. Sorry about my two screw-ups.